And hear your motivation. This is Robert Buchanan, the founder. Just wanted to kind of get on record. Um, again, just that constant like commitment that you have to make if you choose to make changes in your life, especially as an entrepreneur, which goes through a lot of changes, but mostly way past business, you go through a lot of personal changes, and they're incredibly big changes that you have to make. Patience, timing, willing, like a new level of commitments, endurance, perseverance, whatever you thought you had in terms of, oh, I'm like super, I persevere and I'm super determined. Like it, that's a great foundation, but there's so much more that you're challenged with where you have to push that to a new level that you've never done before. Relying on yourself. It's so much trusting in yourself and your gut, but also knowing that you might be wrong and being okay with that, as long as you develop the skill of acting quickly and readapting, and taking the lesson out of the failure, which is why it's there in the first place, right? Like taking that lesson out of it and then adding it to your arsenal of insight and wisdom so you can make the next decision better. And then doing that constantly over and over and over again. While you're doing all that to build your company, while you're working on building any sort of like, semblance of like a team, like while you're crafting your product, in our case it's hardware and software simultaneously, which is extremely ambitious. Then you still have to do the personal work that I just got done talking about. On top of that, you have to do, what do you have to do to survive, right? What does that take? What does that look like? You have to be really smart about that. For many years now, we've talked about the fact that we took on property management as a way to get our utilities and our rent and our cell phone, internet, all these different things covered, in exchange for certain type of labors and certain type of management experiences, to reduce that stress level. And don't get me wrong, it's still incredibly stressful. But at the same time, it does reduce a certain type of stress that would otherwise be there if you were working somewhere else full time. And then on top of that, it gives you the time in your pocket to decide where should it best be allocated, to make the highest possibility or odds of success with the venture. So with that being said, if you're working a 9 to 5, you're structured, really it's 8 to 6 or 7 to 6, which means you don't, come 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the evening when you actually get home, then you start your venture. And it's like, okay, the odds of success are really low because your competition is me. And I'm willing to put in, 10 hours throughout the day while putting in another 5 hours for my actual, daytime job, which means by the end of the day, you're tired and I've already accomplished a whole day's worth of work for it here, in addition to the other things. So it's how do you get there faster, because your competition is always going to be moving pretty quickly. And I've seen parts of my competition, they're moving at phenomenal speeds, and I'm trying to figure out how to keep up. Like, how do I make sure I'm competitive? How do I make sure we differentiate from, what our competitors are doing to make sure we can stand out and bring value to the market? So, okay, so what does that look like in your daytime job? This is what the daytime job looks like. So we're trying to change the world, track carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and for the cargo industry, and really transform, holding accountability and responsibility to everybody as we ship and move all these cargo goods around the world. Put that aside, great mission. This is what it looks like when you're not doing that. So I'm in the middle of doing a turn. What that means is an apartment renovation. It's what I do to be able to make sure that my family has a roof over their head and utilities. So we go around and we clean everything up, and you can kind of see it gets pretty nasty. There's a lot of gross stuff that you're responsible for cleaning up. And then you have to install appliances, you have to clean the other appliances, you have to install new blinds, you have to replace light fixtures, you got to clean everything. All the shelves are pretty filthy right now. We're in the middle of working in the bathroom. You can see how pretty gross it gets in there, right? Look at the shower. And so you gotta clean all that. And then, hopefully you get to a point where it starts to look something, decent. This has new carpet and everything. You have the new blinds. We're going to put in a new heater. We just got done with the new light fixture. Let's go over to this room over here. You can see we're starting to paint after this video to, prepping for that. So what I'm getting at is, you got to be able to have you got to reduce the ego significantly. Um, you got to boost up your confidence in ways, because you got to be able to tell yourself, even though I'm doing this crappy job, that it is still giving me the opportunity to pursue the thing that I know I'm meant to do. And it's laying the foundation for that future. And that even though it's crappy and it feels crappy, it's still powerful in the sense of what it's going to do for me later. And it's an investment. And you got to tell yourself that to keep your confidence high. If your confidence drops, then the ambition drops with it. And then the willingness to go through pain and different types of suffering that allow you to grow. And so you really want to stay on top of that confidence and that self-esteem by telling yourself, this is what it takes. These are the different milestones that I have to reach and go through. These different building experiences to build up my character inside and my strength inside as a person to actually pursue something as ambitious as changing the world, for carbon emissions. It's just, you have to know what the bottom looks like in order to even be able to climb to the top. And you have to be willing to clean and work through at the bottom while you're building that ladder to get to the top. And then once it's built, I don't know if you've ever climbed a ladder, but it's pretty fast. It doesn't take a lot of time. But as long as you were the one that took the time to build it correctly, you're a part of it, and you know what it should look like, where it should go, and you're going through these experiences and hustling and grinding and pursuing yourself, that inner personal development, that personal growth is so incredibly important as an entrepreneur. In my case, as a husband and a father, to continue pushing myself to find the next version of me, and be willing to give up that old obsolete version that might have been great at one moment but no longer applies, and have to be willing to throw that out the window and say, okay, there's a better version sitting here. Let me step into those shoes and let me throw out this other pair. It's more important to grow through the experience as you reach new heights and new levels, especially when you're pursuing such ambitious things. So with that being said, I just wanted to get that on the record, what it takes. Again, you have to work hard. You have to be willing to clean those toilets, and not let your ego or your pride get in the way. It's going to suck. It's going to feel terrible. But push through it, stick with it. It gets better. It takes patience. It doesn't get better tomorrow. It doesn't get better in a week. It takes a couple years. It takes a few years to get there. But if you're willing to stick with it long enough, you'll see your return 1,000x, 10,000x. It's gonna be beautiful, and you'll be proud about the person who you wake up to become. Like Jim Rohn says, it's not about becoming wealthy or having that kind of status. It's the person that you become in the process as you pursue those things, again, that personal growth. So be willing to change, be willing to adapt, and be willing to get better, and you'll get there. But here, you're out.